Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Greenspan. I'm Regional Campaign Coordinator for the Ron Paul for President campaign. I want to welcome you to this event. This event is brought to you today by the USC Program Board, a division of the undergraduate student government. And we'd like to thank Amy Wan, Chris Monteverde Tallarico, and Jeff Hubbard over here. Where's Jeff? For putting together this wonderful event, and we're so happy to be here. And we're happy to have so many of you here. So what I'd like to do is introduce Baraka May, who will sing the national anthem, after which we will hear from Ed Griffin, who wrote the book that many of you may know, Creature from Jekyll Island. So Baraka.
Put your hands on your hearts. We don't have a flag. I don't see it anywhere.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner o'er the land of the free, home of the brave.
Boy, I gotta wipe the tears from my eyes. Well, hello, members of the Constitutional Underground. When Jeff asked me a couple of weeks ago to speak, I said, sure. He said, about 5 minutes. That's hard for me to do. I'm a 90-minute speech guy, as some of you know. So I got to thinking, well, this is the age of the soundbite. So how do I take what I want to say and turn it down into a little soundbite? And I worked on it, and I worked on it, and I came up finally with the whole thing condensed down to 11 words. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay, I want you to remember this. The only candidate who can win for America is Ron Paul. Yeah. Now I've delivered my speech. I'll take maybe 4 minutes and 30 seconds to amplify on that. The reason I think that's an important topic is because as the campaign rolls on, you're going to run into people who will say, oh, I love Ron Paul. I love what he stands for. I like everything about him except one thing. He can't win. Well, I have an idea of how you might deal with such a person. You might ask them, can't win what? Well, the election, of course. And then you follow up rapidly, I hope. You say, well, what's important about winning an election? Why do you want to win an election? Now, that'll stop a lot of people. They haven't thought it beyond that point. They think that winning is somehow it. They don't know what they're winning, but they're winners. You know, they like to be in the football pool, the winner. They don't care whether it's Cincinnati, Detroit, or New York, but they don't care. They just want to be on the winning side. And what good does it do to win if you lose your freedom in the process? So you might ask this person to think it's important to win an election for really only one reason, and that is in anticipation that the candidate that you're voting for will carry your political principles and your ideology into office so you can implement this and affect the nation and preserve that freedom that we just pledged our allegiance to a moment ago. That's the reason for winning. If you can't win then what's the point? Now, it's possible for other candidates out there in the scene to possibly win for the Republican Party, or win for the Democrat Party, or win for the international corporations, or win for the pharmaceutical cartel, or win for the banking cartel, or win for the industrial military complex. But I am now going to introduce to you the only man who can win for America. Ron Paul.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the revolution. It's alive and well. No, it's really great. It's great to see so many out, and I'm delighted that our numbers continue to grow. And of course, the question I'm always asked every time I'm interviewed by the media is, you know, you can't win. Those are so low, but why are you doing so well on the internet? So the real question is can we translate this phenomenal support for these views that we hold from the internet into real votes come January? What do you think? You know, the question is always asked, you know, why are we getting the support, especially among young people? What is it that they're attracted to? And it can't be me by myself. I know that can't be it. But it just may be that the cause of liberty is what we're interested in. I work on the assumption that more than 100 years ago, by some man or other, the concept of liberty got chopped into pieces. Some portions were defended by one group, and that was economic liberty. And then another group said, no, there's liberty too, and they started defending personal liberty. And then another group started talking about a pro-American foreign policy where we minded our own business and took care of ourselves and provided a strong national defense. And others said we had to police the world. So it all got chopped up. So my suggestion, and the suggestion that we hold, is why don't we put it back together and understand the concept of liberty, which made America great. Is not very complicated, because it doesn't take a whole lot of talent to figure out that in America it was meant that we as individuals should be left alone to our own bidding as long as we don't hurt people. Just stay out of our lives and let us be. The government was never expected what we were supposed to put into our minds, or put into our soul, or put into our bodies. And it was never intended by our Constitution that the government should run the economy. Let me assure you, the people I've met in Washington, whether they're the bureaucrats or the politicians, they're not smart enough to run the economy. When they tell you that they should run the economy, means that they want to run your financial life, that they have a right to your finances totally and completely. This is the concept built on the personal income tax. The assumption is made that the government owns 100% of the fruits of your labor, and they will give you permission to keep a certain percentage. So whether it's 1% or 99% taxation, the principle is wrong, and that's why we have to get rid of the income and repeal the 16th Amendment.
of that is we assume responsibility for ourselves, and if we're left alone and allowed to keep the fruits of our labor, we can take better care of ourselves than the government could ever pretend to. It was never intended that the government would regulate our personal lives, our personal privacy. And yet today, in this post-9/11 atmosphere, we have sacrificed way too much. There has been a systematic attack on personal liberty for the last 6 years. We need to reverse that. We need to repeal laws Act and make sure we never get a national ID card. And if you listen to the debates, you will hear it talked about frequently. Yes, we need that identifier, because if we don't have that identifier for all Americans, we won't know who's illegal and legal. I say it's unnecessary. What we need is a free market economy, a free society where the economy is so healthy, the issue illegal aliens would become a non-issue because there would be a need for workers in this country. As long as we have this economic condition that encourages people not to work, it encourages illegal immigration and dependency of bringing families here and whatnot, then you're going to have more of it. But if you have a free and healthy economy with sound money, there will be no contention with people coming into this country, and we could be much more generous with our immigration policy. It has been well known, and Randolph Bourne stated it best when he said that war is the health of the state. When there's a war going on, we the people are supposed to cow down and accept whatever we're told by the government, that in times of emergency you have to sacrifice liberty. That's nonsense. We never to sacrifice 1 ounce of liberty in the preservation, if 1 ounce of liberty to preserve safety and security. Safety and security is better achieved by free people than slaves. Now there's another. We all know about the war in Iraq, and I'll talk about but I want to talk about another war that's an illegal war. It's an intrusion on our privacy. It's an excuse to abuse our liberties wholesale, and that is the war on drugs. Now, in a free society, there are always problems, and people get to make choices. Some people will make bad choices, but they have to be responsible for their bad choices. I happen to have a personal belief about drugs. I happen to think they're terribly dangerous, but I also have come to the conclusion that prescription drugs are causing a lot more harm in this country than the illegal drugs. And in the with illegal drugs, the main danger is that of the nonviolent behavior of some individuals who are addicted, and we treat them as criminals instead of sick people. We don't treat alcoholics by putting them all in prison, but if somebody happens to be addicted drug, they should receive help, but they can't receive help by turning them into criminals and throwing them in prisons. I, as a president, if I had the opportunity, any individual that has been in prison for a non-violent drug problem ought to be released. We should deal only with the violent people in and we have enough of that to deal with. Not too long ago, we heard the case of a senator getting into trouble. That always bothered me a bit, because it seems to me like there was a lot of wasted police energy sitting around in a place that seems to be inappropriate for a policeman. But you know, why are those policemen out looking for the rapists and the murderers and the pedophiles and the different people in the country, rather sitting around in toilet stalls? I mean, what have we come to? And how are we supposed to feel safer safer because now we have the government totally in charge of our security at airports. We're supposed to feel safer because they take our toothpaste from us and they mull us over at the airport and delay things, and we're supposed to feel a lot safer. That's because they're missing the whole point of why we have been endangered. But is personal liberty. It's your life. It's your life to make a good use out of it or to destroy it. If you make bad choices, you have to suffer the consequences. Economics is the same way. If you want to work hard, get your degrees, and be ambitious, and get to keep the fruits of your labor, you ought to be able to do it. That is what can get us to achieve the greatest amount of prosperity. Best distributed is under a free market economy.
Exactly.
Of course, we've had this violation of our personal liberties, and we've had this intrusion of the federal government, especially in our economic affairs, and it has undermined our system. And this today is one of the reasons why people are unhappy. You know, the government tells us there's no inflation. Of course, they quit giving us the numbers to measure inflation, and that's the money supply. They won't even give us those numbers anymore. But the money skyrocketing, which means they're inflating the currency, which means the value of the dollar is going down. It means prices go up. Somebody the other day sort of challenged me at one of my meetings. He says, well, what's the difference if there's 3% inflation rate and everybody's prices go up 3%? It's not the way it happens. What happens is if they inflate, somebody's prices might go up 15% and somebody else might make a lot of profit over the whole deal. So the whole process of the inflation is a very, very bad system. If we want to have a healthy economy, we have to obey the Constitution, and still, under the Constitution, has never been repealed, is that only gold and silver can be legal tender, not paper money. There is a precise reason that those rules were changed 100 years ago, 1913, and since that time, we've eliminated 96% of the value of the dollar. Tool for big government. It is the tool and the ability for government to grow. Not only did we have the income tax come in 1913, but we had the Federal Reserve come in. So that means it turns over to the government this opportunity to spend money and not be responsible. They can just either collect it by force through taxes, or then they can go to the Federal Reserve. The best approach to that, of course, is not only legalizing gold and silver, but eventually what we need to do is we need to repeal the whole Federal Reserve. Rid of the Federal Reserve System. If the people were required to pay for the government they get on a weekly basis, believe me, there would have been a good rebellion a long time ago. So that's one of the reasons, with tongue-in-cheek, I offered the amendment that would repeal wage withholding. Everybody pay by check at the end of the week or the end of the month. Believe me, this would have ended a long time ago. But instead, what they do is they tax us to the maximum, then they borrow to the maximum, and then they print to the maximum. But the debt is coming due, and that's what's happening. That's why the standard of living is going down. Real wages are down. Middle-class people are hurting right now, more so than they want to admit in Washington. They want to say, well, there's no inflation because we don't count energy and food. Well, we'll exclude, though, and the inflation rate's not so high. But the free market calculation of inflation on prices is closer to 10%, not to 2%. But that's why people are upset and annoyed, and of course I think it's one of the reasons why young people are flocking to the campaign, because at least they had been taught real good arithmetic and they can add it all up. And they're getting the But just think of the that we've had since we've had the tax system and the Federal Reserve System. They immediately inflated and taxed to fight the First World War. They inflated in the 20s to have a stock market boom, and then they messed it up and gave us the Depression. They inflated for the next war, and it's up and down and over and around and all the problems that we have. But today, conditions are much worse, because even in 1979, when the dollar was threatened, there was a stronger economy here and a stronger manufacturing.
Today, our manufacturing base is gone, and now we're paying the bills because as the housing market shrinks, all that money borrowed against equities, which are shrinking, it's similar in many ways. It might be much bigger than what happened to the NASDAQ bubble. And this time around, the only tool that they have is creating new money out of thin air. And there will be a limit. There's going to be a challenge. In this very day, the dollar is at historic lows and will probably continue down. The dollar down means interest rates will go up, the cost of living is going to go up, and our standard of living will go down. That's what we have to contend with. And we cannot contend with it by looking at the tax code and tinkering, or looking at monetary policy and deciding whether you should raise the rates or lower the rate. The only solution here is sound money and a free market economy. It's the only thing that can happen. But since 1913, this has been one of the vehicles to finance war. And currently, we are once again doing exactly what we did in the 60s. In the 60s, it was claimed there's no sweat. American people are prosperous and wealthy. We can have guns. We can have all the prosperity. We can have all the welfare. The government can take care of everybody. And we can have all the guns and the shooting and the killing and lose 60,000 men. It's no big deal, they claim. And yet, the price had to be paid. Matter of fact, the price for in the 1970s, it was a period of time which motivated me to run for politics. It was after the decline and the disintegration of the Bretton Woods Agreement, the breakdown, the last vestige of the gold standard, which prompted me to run for Congress. The 70s were rough. The standard of living went down, inflation skyrocketed, interest rates went to 21%, and the dollar nearly totally collapsed in 79 and 80. Things are worse right now, and we have to understand it, and we have to know what to do. Continue to finance this foreign militarism around the world any longer. When you add up everything we spend overseas, not just the DOD budget, which is separate from the war budget, when you add it all up, it's nearly $1 trillion that we're spending overseas. Let me tell you, slash that greatly. 50%, 70%, who knows what. We could really slash that budget, and it wouldn't hurt our defense posture one bit. Matter of fact, we would be a stronger nation. We would have less threats. We would have a stronger military. Everybody knows that I was very much on the record many years before started. The Iraq Liberation Act was passed in 1998. I spoke out strongly then, and year after that, warning about the war that was coming. And now they say to me, when the media ask me a question, they say, yeah, we know you're against it, we know you're there, but what are you going to do about it now? Well, a few weeks ago, I gave a talk, and the title of the talk was very simple. We just marched in, we can just march out. Created. Don't we have to stay there and take care of it? I say yes. We have a moral obligation to the American taxpayer and to the American soldier. Bring them home, stop the killing, and stop the bleeding. This is what the American people are saying and demanding, and they're not getting it. We had a change in the Congress last year, and there are no changes there. The process has continued. There was an opportunity to insist that the president can't spread this war into Iran without the permission of the Congress, and it was struck from the bill by the leadership on the other side of the aisle. Today, even on this very day, there's even stronger hints that the preparations are currently being made that Iran will soon be bombed by the United States. This has been the most destructive foreign policy probably in our history, and we've had some downturns over the years. But right now, we are engaged, since we've marched into Iraq, we're engaged in preemptive war. That means we start the war. We declare war. We go in on a country not capable of defending themselves, a bad country, but one that can't defend itself, that had not made an attack on us, and they put this in holy terms, like we are doing God's work by going over there. It's foolhardy, and we change our way. The founders gave us the answer. Mind our own business and take care of our business here at home. One reason that I'm optimistic, and so many others have gathered that optimism and share it, is that we have been a great country. We have great traditions. We have a great Constitution. Not a perfect Constitution. There could be and should be some changes. But the important thing about the Constitution, we shouldn't ignore it. We should change it only the way we're instructed to change it. We've had an understanding of contract and property rights and individual liberty and religious liberty. We have forgotten that. We have lost our way. We have so little respect for our Constitution. And it's not this administration or this Congress. It's been many, many decades. It's slowly eroding the respect for liberty. And it's the Congress, it's the executive branch, and it's the legislative branch as well as the judicial branch. They all have so little respect for the rule of law. So if we look to our problems and say, how did we get into this mess? We come up with the idea, well, first, we have economic problems because we don't follow the Constitution on money or on free market economy. Why are we being so abused on our personal liberties? Because everybody seems to be so frightened. Anything the government does, if they're going to make us safer, we're going to sacrifice our liberties. It's that careless attitude and ignoring the Constitution and the Fourth Amendment and the many other amendments. And likewise, we have not followed a foreign policy that is placed in the Constitution, which the founders told us to follow, and that is to stay out of these affairs. Now, if the answers are there, the solutions aren't that difficult. If we recognize why we're in this mess, all we have to do is put people in office who really believe and understand what the Constitution says, and that you believe will stand up and stand for the Constitution. Once we as a people allow the government to assume the responsibility of individuals or of the economy, if it's up to the federal government to make us better people or make the economy more fair or make the world safe for democracy, they can make the attempt. It never works. It's always foolhardy. But the one real evil in this is they can't do any of that without taking away your liberties and taking away your money. That's why it has to be rejected. We were introduced to this fantastic idea of individual liberty. And a lot of people will accuse me of saying, well, you're going back to the Dark Ages. Hardly so. The ideas of liberty are very new in the history of the world, and it's very new. It was really only well tested in this country. It's this modern meager testing of liberty, which has been fantastically successful, that we have rejected, and And what we represent now are those who want to revive this and say that we do believe in liberty. We do trust the individual. We don't want to be taken care of by the government. We don't want the government to force our will other people. And the answers can be found. The answers are right there. It's much better for us than say that when the Soviet system collapsed and other countries have revolutions, they don't have our tradition. So there's no reason to be despondent and say, well, it's not worth fighting for because nobody understands it. They do. And that is what's happening in the campaign. There are more people that understand this than I ever dreamed of.
Hey!
I only expected 50 people here today. No, it is wonderful. There were many, many people who were just waiting for the opportunity to stand for these principles, and it's so delightful to see so many new people introduced and the enthusiasm of the young people, because I don't believe true revolutions come about without the young people being involved. Remain very optimistic, but very much knowing and sensing our responsibility. If we do nothing and we sit back and say, oh yeah, it'll work out because America's good and great and we have good laws in our books and we'll finally get some people up there that are going to do it. It won't happen. It won't happen. But I tell you what, if they hear our voice, it's going to happen.
Right.
our civil liberties have been violated, but we still live in a great country. We still can have rallies like this. Sometimes we have to work at it, but we still can have rallies, and we still have a way to get our message out. Maybe the three majors might not give us as much time. They might not give us as much time on the debates, but the vehicles are there. There's radio talk shows, and there's internet, and there's all kinds of ways that this message can come out. So it isn't so much that we can't do it. It depends on our enthusiasm for it, and it also depends on the message. If it's a true message, if it's worth fighting for and worth spreading, it will happen, and we have to believe that. Speech. But it is very easy to conclude that there's every reason for us to continue the fight and be enthusiastic. And the other rule that I have as you join in and participate in this wonderful event is that we have fun doing it. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. We don't know what will happen to our country. We do know that if we do nothing, we know what the results will be, and they won't be good. But in the meantime, meet up all you can, get together, and enjoy yourselves, and we should enjoy, because when you work with people who are like-minded, even though we work with each other and we're like-minded, we're all very diverse. There's all kinds of people, I'm sure, in this audience. There are probably some people here that aren't Republicans. There are probably some people here that are probably some people who are Democrats, for all we know. There may even be an anarchist here or two. And everybody's lifestyle may be different. This is the wonderful thing about the Constitution and freedom. It brings people together because we're not going to be judgmental and tell other people how to live and what to do. And it's not judgmental about people how they live around the world. Bring people together. Socialism and welfarism and communism does exactly the opposite. It means that the government has all the monopoly control, and what we have today is sort of a pseudo-fascism where the special interests, the corporations and others who get stuff from the government, they want your money and your inflation, and they send it up there and they subsidize and they take care of the huge lobbying groups, whether it's in the medical industrial complex, the media industrial complex, the military industrial, the money industrial complex, or the mercantilistic industrial complex. They all want to control things. And the difference is when the individual is take care of it, then we don't have to compete, and that's why people come together, because we don't have to vie for it. We don't have to go to Washington and be participating in that. I have a little bumper sticker, if anybody's been to my office, and the bumper sticker on my desk says, "Don't steal, the government hates competition." With each other. We work together for one goal, and that is for liberty and for the greatness of this country. Thank you very much.
For coming out today to see Congressman Paul, and we hope you'll stand strong for the principles of liberty and the Constitution. Thank you very much once again.
folks. My name is Stephen Vincent, and I have a show, The Freedom Message. We broadcast live. We've been broadcasting this, streaming live to thousands of Ron Paul supporters across the country. Maybe even across the world. We're in 16 countries across the world. So we're still live, and if you'd like an opportunity to tell the world why you support Ron Paul, just come over here on the right-hand side of the stage to our station, and we'll put you on live on the air. Tell everyone why you love Ron Paul. All right. Thank you very much, Stephen Vincent. The Freedom Message, Monday through Friday from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. bbsradio.com. My website is ronpaulradio.com. Right over here on the right. Come on over and share your spirit with the world.
Dr. Paul, enforcing property rights. What else would you do for global warming?
Well, that would be the main approach.
It's about what we should do about global warming, not what the government should do.
Dr. Paul, can I get a picture? I know, we got speakers. Speakers.
Ron Paul!
How much do you hate UCLA?
Not enough. Never enough.
Yep.
I feel like I'm blasted.
Hey, somebody with free hands. Somebody to operate this camera. I can't do that in 3 seconds.
Well, lots of people are doing it. That's why it's taking a while to get over it.
Thank you for the pocket constitutions.
I like pockets.
And constitutions.
Although how long he's going to stay around.
Thank you. Our country's in big trouble and our tactics are have to change. We'll be back. It's a free market. We'll be back.
Thank you for being consistent. I appreciate it. Let's get out of here so we can actually get a lot more. Take a picture. Good. Let's go.
I see it. You see me now? That's me. We're going to head over. Why don't you stand by there? We're going to head over that way. Stand by. Bye. Hey, anybody want to go free?
Free bumper ticket? Yeah. Well, I'll get it. How dare you? Okay. How dare you? Paul. Paul. I'd like to see something. What's this meant to you? Like some water. Contact me there. What do you feel about that?
Just wanted to say
I see we're branding them now.
High five for America! High five for America! Oh. All I want is the mob. Oh, big hand.
I can use my phone. We're ready to start moving folks. We're going to go down there. We need to start cutting things so we can get them first, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Let's go, guys.
Every weekend. Wonderful. Thank you.
Children. She can't vote. I can't.
Dr. Paul.
Let's go. Come on, folks.
Dr. Paul, can I please get your autograph?
Yeah, come on, move out.
Can I get your autograph?
On this here? This is let go right now.
Thank you. It's your inspiration.
Thank you.
A really quick picture with you.
Thank you so much. High fives for America. Yes! Yeah! Thank you so much. America. High five.
Will.
Going around here. That is good.
Thank you.
Picture?
Take a picture of it?
Go right up on the right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for standing up for us, sir. Thank you.
Trip home. Trying to get like I'd be happy to. I just want to spot the bush.
I don't know. Not mine.
Well, I got to shake his hand.
I took him up and introduced him to Eddie. He's got Ed said it was okay for him to call, so he's getting his phone number right now.
Are you in the campaign or did he not?
Okay.
At least it
I told my wife, Chance Fox 11 for tonight, though. I don't. Well, you know, you gotta go on the easy side. Because they look at on that. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. He said yes.
You had to go, huh?
He said yes, I'd like to.
Good.
So, don't know.
You told him what you're doing then? Yeah.
I had time.
Good. Yeah.
I told him I was making a movie.
Yeah.
And I have him on everything in America.
Good.
And he said I'm for it.
Great.